This is me, Avi Dwivedi, and you are listening me on Extended Reality Developers of India community. Today we have a very special guest because I'm a big fan of him and he is my inspiration for so many years. So without further any delay, let's welcome our guest for today, Professor Dr. Shafi Ahmed. So Dr. Shafi Ahmed is a world-renowned surgeon, teacher, futurist, innovator, entrepreneur, and Professor Shafi Ahmed also has multi-award winning cancer surgeon and currently working at Royal London Hospital. So let's welcome Dr. Shafi Ahmed. Hi, sir.
Hi, Avi, and thanks for having me on the show. While we're here, I'll say Eid Mubarak to all the people out there who celebrated today on Eid. So thanks for having me on the show.
It's my pleasure, and it's my pleasure to host you, sir, here. And let's start with your company. So you have two virtual reality companies. One is Virtual Medics. The other one is medical realities. So let's talk about these companies and the kind of work you do here.
So I think both companies were based around democratizing education, bringing immersive learning to the healthcare workers, and particularly, of course, doctors, from my perspective. So if we go back a few years, we were using Google Earth, which we'll discuss later, around training, etc., using augmented reality, I guess, as a mechanism for training, thinking that was going to be the future for anatomical teaching, maybe clinical sciences. And that obviously just dovetailed very quickly into virtual reality. Both were accelerating hard a few years ago. We weren't quite sure where the landscape was going to be. So initially we started with Virtual Medics, an augmented reality platform, and that transitioned to an AR/VR company called Medical Realities. But what we're doing, we're trying to, I guess, reimagine what medical education might look like in the future. But obviously now it's today, 4 years later, looking at how we train people, how we use virtual learning, and the immersive nature of that kind of experience to enhance and to help them around their future learning around medical education. So that's what we've been doing for a while, and that's the companies that we created. And now we're, of course, pressing hard to bring that to the vast majority of the medical professionals.
Amazing, sir. So let's talk about how a surgeon get the advantage using those virtual technology in the work of surgeries or in the surgical training process. So what is the surgeon's perspective? How he get the advantage? Is it the 3D visualization which helps, or what is it exactly?
So it's quite a difficult question, because there are a lot of areas where a surgeon might benefit. Okay. Let's talk about the education first and foremost. We've seen now with remote, we want online learning, and we're seeing the explosion of being distant and being remote, which I've been driving hard for the last 5 years. So first of all, the learning education might be easier to access on a global level, improving education for people in low middle income countries, for example, using connectivity. So learning was definitely changed. I mentioned earlier anatomy, learning surgery, the training, etc. So that's certainly one part of it. Then we talk about the actual operating room itself, Avi. So in the operating theatre, surgery has always been an area of disruption constantly with new techniques, new technology. So it kind of makes sense to bring these kind of technologies into place. So let's talk about a few things. We talk about extended reality. So if you look at augmented and mixed reality at the moment, what we're seeing is that we can augment surgeon practice. For example, overlaying information on a CT scan or imaging to locate a tumour, in the liver, for example, which could be done. I know some companies, my friends are working on doing that, like hollow eyes, for example. So you can visualize in 3D imaging, real time on the patient's body. Yeah, that's great. Or you can plan the surgery. You can look at an orthopedics, looking at a fracture and a displacement in AR, overlying the patient as they sleep on the operating table, and plan the operation prior to that. So planning, pre-operative design seems a real good way of making the surgery much better with better outcomes. And then, of course, we talk about the training element itself, the virtual training. What does it allow us to do? And we've seen companies like also VR and others, fundamental VR, based on training tools in virtual reality, so that you can actually replicate the operation in virtual reality, which will do two things. One, it will shorten the training a bit. Also, it will anticipate readiness. That's what we're theatre when we finally get there, take away some of the stress, anxiety, etc., that's required. And we've obviously created our learning packages around this whole training of future surgeons in medical realities. So there's a number of areas, I think, where the extended reality is so right for surgery. The other thing we did, of course, a while ago is the communication. Now what we're seeing is that we're communicating through Zoom and Skype like today, and people are now looking at new ways of connecting. So I was using mixed reality, using holograms avatars to connect with people around the world in real time. So can we have a virtual, what's called a multi-disciplinary team meeting, get people from around the world, different time zones, different countries, to connect using the holograms avatars, so we can discuss cases in real time, almost making the whole conversation more virtual. So extended reality actually is quite a wide adoption, I think, right? Has many opportunities to bring itself to the forefront of surgical training and practice. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Amazing. So would love to know that where was the origin? I mean, if I talk about doctors, so they are already surrounded with some kind of technology, whether it's CT, whether it's ultrasound machine. So there are a lot of heavy machinery around the doctors, but you are using some experimental stuff like HoloLens here, or Snapchat glasses, or Google glasses. You did one surgery in 2014, which was viewed by 14,000 plus other surgeons on the HoloLens, on the Google Lens. So how you picked up this line, and how you started inventing in these experimental technologies and blending them with where does all this started?
So it's a really good question. So as a surgeon and someone who's been teaching for a long while, I've always looked for different ways of sharing knowledge. Yeah. So one of my roles I had was I was the associate dean at medical school, teaching medical students, as well as being a program director for trainees in surgery in London. So all that thing I was thinking about, how do I redesign learning for the new generation? Generation Y, Generation Z, the millennials, whatever I like to call them, okay? They're different to us, and we should think about how we teach them better. So I've always toyed with the idea around that. And in terms of innovation, as a surgeon, I've always pushed that boundary to do keyhole surgery, robotic surgery, always push that boundary, saying, what's next for us? It's kind of inherent in who we are, looking for new techniques, new ways of working, and new technologies and new devices. And what happened really back in 2014, we talk about this concept of the fourth industrial revolution, of course, where technologies are like coming together at the same point of human existence to impact healthcare. So that was the change. Suddenly, our thoughts and our vision were kind of supported by the availability of these exponential technologies at the same time. Suddenly, we can realize some of the things we want to do. That wasn't true 10 years ago. We didn't have those technologies available, Avi. Now we're now in the middle of it. So that's exciting. But there's extended reality, and we talk about connectivity and 5G, etc. It's all together. So it almost like someone like me, who I guess is a visionary, who wants to push the boundaries of science, technology, what's available. It's been perfect. It's kind of the perfect storm, if you like, of availability, opportunity, and the technology and the drivers around big tech companies driving us forward. And healthcare, of course, is the fulcrum. It holds it together. It's kind of the perfect situation to be in to challenge new ideas and to also implement change. So look, I think it's the right time, right place for me. And about 5 years ago, the whole world changed where we could suddenly become more disruptive.
Okay, Dr. Shafi, let's progress this question ahead. We have so many technologies. We have HoloLens, we have Google Glasses, we have Snapchat glasses, we have Magic Leap. So, what was your best experience with technology? What technology helped you the most in the surgeries? If we are talking aspect of technologies, what was the most comfortable or discomfortable time with the technology, and what is your personal experiences with that?
It's a really good question. So it's still early in its, I guess, in its translation to clinical work for us.
Right.
We still see pockets that are being used. So if you look at AR, for example, when that first came out, what, 4 or 5 years ago, and Google Glass could have been the first precursor of what's to come going forward, we had mass adoption of wearable glasses. Yeah, we've seen them used in industry, for example, in certain areas. We saw a lot of companies try to use them in healthcare for telemedicine, and that's has some traction. We've seen some remote monitoring of patients as you walk around the ward, for example, seeing displays of their electronic health record. But they haven't really been implemented widely. As part of the problem is the glass itself. People are still a bit uncertain about data protection, privacy, etc. So we haven't challenged that in a way that is more adoptable. If you talk about virtual reality, of course, that's gone a bit further now, which is exciting, because now we've had implementation of virtual reality training. A number of companies do clinical research, validation methods, and now when they've gone to market, we're seeing the adoption. Also, conversely, is the price of headsets. They've come down over the last 5 years. They were too expensive a long time ago, they're unwieldy, and not fit for purpose. Now we're seeing this Quest now, which is amazing, with 6 degrees of freedom, standard device, no wire attachment. Suddenly, it's translated and changed. Because before, VR was driven by hardware,
right?
Essentially, every month new one's coming out. And what was missing, which I always felt was a problem, was the content. There was no compelling content for ages to drive the market. Now I'm seeing that being addressed. We're seeing that. So both are exciting in different ways. The third is mixed reality, which is really exciting. So HoloLens has been here for a few years. The version 2 has just come out more recently. And again, there's a lot of utility. Yeah, it's promising a lot. Current course is expensive. It's mainly for industry or very small enthusiasts. So that's part of the problem. It's just the price point's too heavy. Also, the utility is not there either in terms of the content. That's always been slow to drive change. And it's too heavy. It's too unwieldy. As you know, when you wear it, it's very heavy in version 1. You can't wear it for long periods of time. Magic's coming out, of course, and again, promised a lot. But again, it hasn't been delivered in any shape or form. It's something that's more practical to be used regularly. Again, it's aspirational, a lot of it. We're seeing some software for gaming, etc. So I'd say those kind of things are really exciting, but we haven't seen utilities yet that are being used routinely in clinical practice. I just think it's a cycle of change. I think it will take another few years before it's been routinely used. And surgery seems to be one that most people are interested in, because as I said before, it's one that can be disrupted quite easily to add value in this reality business. So I think I'm interested in all areas to see where the direction is. Or everything's viable, from augmented reality to virtual reality and the mixed reality. It's all viable. They all find their own place, their own niche. Some are just have more traction than others, and we've got to find out where we are going forward. All three will survive, will do well. They'll find their own place in the medical space. So that's what I find exciting, seeing that journey of these companies, and also the availability and also the perception of healthcare workers taking this up.
Dr. Shafi, you did 3+ tech talks and the several more keynotes. So one of the talk was related to the future of future hospitals, like the hospitals of the future. So what is your vision about the future of hospitals, and would love to hear some of your words about those.
Sure, so this is fascinating. So look, we'll talk about the COVID-19 pandemic shortly, but I think this is a time of great change, yeah?
Right.
All the things we're discussing now, I'm called a futurist. I think about this future of healthcare, future of hospitals, and we thought it might be in the distant. What COVID-19 has done is accelerate that change. It's made it really more real, and I think it'll make it much quicker and hasten the prospect of the future hospital. So what we're talking about now is the healthcare system. Yeah, it's disparate. It doesn't connect properly. There's huge issues around patient empowerment and data, etc. That's all going to change. the future health in 10 years' time will be different. We'll have more work in the community. There'll be more work on prevention, which makes sense to stop or promote well-being, promote health. Also, more care in the community, which is cheaper, inevitably. We'll see technologies coming in. For example, telemedicine has been taken off by 6,000-7,000% in this last 3 or 4 months. Okay, we knew this there before. Suddenly, pandemic, everyone wants to be online and happy to have virtual consultations. So it's accelerating the change. We're seeing for data in healthcare, there'll be much more sophisticated data with lots more granularity for patients to be empowered with decisions for what's called personalized or precision medicine. It'll be based on science and data. We're seeing more patients with chronic diseases, Abby, with diabetes and with some chronic obstructive airway disease. All the chronic diseases will be managed differently. We've seen it now in COVID, but now they're requiring less hospital appointments. In the future, we'll see remote monitoring, wearable sensors, data-driven healthcare, where suddenly you can get data all the time on these patients. Yeah, genomics is going to be huge. You know, genomics is becoming more and more cheaper as time goes on. It's now about $1,000 to have your whole genome sequenced. When I did my PhD back in 2000, it was $700 million to have your gene sequence. So the price went coming down and became more affordable. So we're seeing a great change in this. The other question is about healthcare systems, well, health is going to change. Secondary care or tertiary care is just too expensive. Yeah? We can't manage it at the moment with GDP, with costs and insurance. It's unaffordable to large parts of the population. Where's the technology coming in is almost making us more human. It'll make us allowed to democratize healthcare better around the world. It gets more affordable, it's attached to a smartphone. Suddenly, more people that require healthcare treatment will get it and become more affordable. We also look at hospitals. The bigger the better. It's an amazing hospital built, and they're glamorous, they're massive, huge, multi-story. What we should be looking at is making it smaller and smaller. Actually, the opposite. Because we don't want people to go to hospital, right? We don't want to that expense. We want people to be better at home. So it'd be great to see a smaller hospital and thinking differently. So how do we redesign the healthcare system rather than just build a hospital in the future? But in the hospital there will be connectivity. I'm talking about 5G at the moment. There will be things like a good electronic health record. There'll be a seamless way of connecting with primary and secondary care, for example, and it's all based around data-driven kind of outcomes. So I see that's happening. I see the next 10 years we'll have much more sophisticated and more affordable healthcare system.
So you said we have to rethink and reinvent this whole healthcare system. So would love to talk more about how telemedicine, remote surgeries, 5G technology is going to boost this change and adaptation of this new healthcare system. Would love to know that.
Yeah, it's a great question. So before I go on, I have to tell you that I have a conflict of interest here. Right. So I'm the Vodafone ambassador for 5G in healthcare in the UK. So yes. It's a big telecoms company, so they've kind of employed me to think about this future. So for me, 5G, and I describe it as this. You've done science before, Avi, so you understand this. I think 5G is a covalent bond, yes. Okay, holding everything together. Okay, it was a missing link in this jigsaw. We talk about the Internet of Things and it's medical things, okay, about being connected. What was missing was that fast speed, low latency device, which is 5G, all right? So suddenly we can create this new healthcare. So when we talk about connected healthcare, of course, we want real-time data, we want wearable sensors, as I mentioned earlier, to evaluate patients remotely. We want telemedicine to be immediate with high bandwidth. So we can see people instantaneously with good display, maybe HD capability, etc., where 5G allows that to happen. And also remember 5G for surgery, for example, we talk about remote surgery. Look, back in 2000-ish, I think it was, there was an operation carried out by surgeons from France. And so surgeons in New York, and the patient was in France, okay? It was a transatlantic operation, it was a gallbladder operation. Now, back in 2000, remember, we had ISDN lines, right, which were unreliable and slow, with huge latency problems. Okay? But they did that in real time, remotely across the Atlantic. Fast forward 20 years, 5G now has latency of 0.1 millisecond, yeah, and download speeds on a mobile phone of 1.5 gigabytes per second. Okay? Suddenly, that conversation we had vision 20 years ago is now being reimagined. Now, you can imagine the future, we could do remote surgery with a robot. We could be remotely. I know there's a surgeon in, I think, East Province of China, last year, did an operation robotically, remotely 30 miles away using 5G, okay, with no lag, instantaneous, and good feedback, okay? Suddenly, the remote surgery is a distinct possibility. It won't happen for a long while, but suddenly it's moved that needle forward. So what I'm saying to you is that this connected life that we have is much better. As 5G is rolled out more around the world, we'll find use cases for it. Suddenly we'll be connected more and more, and suddenly we'll find the utilities to improve healthcare globally. And one of my passions, Avi, is global health. I travel a lot, as you know. Last year, I went to 12, 15 countries to talk, etc., to governments, to ministers about healthcare and redesign. And over the last few years, I've been to over 35 countries, okay? And I've seen the inequity of healthcare, difficulties in translating some of the stuff that we see here into that part of the world. And what I see in the future is that actually, some of these countries that are termed lower middle income countries can springboard, can leapfrog us because they can reimagine the healthcare differently. We're stuck in our methods and our ways of working. Let's reimagine everything else. So I was in Bolivia a couple of years ago, invited by the government to think about their future hospital, which we've created. It's opening later this year. We're redesigning, reimagining healthcare. I'm not taking lessons from other people, but reimagine what could be possible for a community that requires that kind of healthcare system. So it's about leapfrogging, acceleration, thinking wider, thinking big, and thinking differently.
Okay, so when we talk about remote surgeries, there are two components. One is the doctor, who is sitting one end in the world, and the robotic arm, which is actually doing the operation, which is another part of the world, right? So how do patients get so comfortable or so easy with the fact that a robot is going to perform the surgery? That's one question. And in near future, are we going to see even the advancement of technology where the artificial intelligence takes the place of a doctor into the very smaller surgeries, like very minuscule surgeries, but can we automate that process even? Is that a future?
Yeah, really good question. So let's talk about it in small parts. So at the moment, you think about keyhole surgery, and we're performing keyhole surgery through what I call laparoscopy. There's a monitor, and you have instruments.
Right.
And that's good. That's minimized our surgery, smaller scars, less pain, and better outcomes ultimately. The next step of that is visualization. So I know, for example, my colleagues in touch surgery looking at AI on the screen. So computer vision, looking at how we look at structures, how they can be identified, how they can help you navigate the operation and the whole team, using artificial intelligence in real time, recognizing structures, pointing to the next part of the operation, etc. So already we're seeing implementation AI within the surgical practice itself, right? That's the first thing. Then, of course, as you go forward, it's going to be, robots are coming in, and I call 2020 the year of the robot wars, Avi, because we've had one robot company for 20 years, which is Intuitive Surgical, the Da Vinci system, which is amazing. Done really amazing work, and it's pushed that boundary to its limits. But now we're seeing a plethora of other robot companies coming in who get to compete and make it more affordable. There's Cambridge Medical Robotics, and Medtronic coming out with. I advise the Google team around their robot in Mountain View. It was a joint robot with Johnson & Johnson, for example, who now brought the company over, and others. There's many. Suddenly we're seeing a huge amount of robots coming out which make it more affordable and procedurally cheaper, I guess. So that's there available. So the capability is there. Now we've got the connectivity necessary, as I said before. So I think the next step is going to be how in the next 5-10 years is train everybody and then do some remote work. Now, two questions. One is about, patient acceptance, patient trust, which is a big issue. That's an issue for everything in healthcare, not just robots or remote surgery. It's around everything about data. Which trust the surgical remote. What you have to have as you go forward, if you're going down this path, is have two teams either side initially, so they can take over, etc. Robots are fairly reliable, I think, because they can stop them and they can start them, etc. So I think there'll be an actual place for in the future. We're not quite ready at the moment. There's so many conversations we haven't had about this kind of thing. don't happen. So I'll take an example of this where I think things might help. Let's talk about Tesla. Let's talk about Elon Musk. Let's talk about autonomous vehicles. I look at that industry, the healthcare. Because what they're doing is saying, we can drive you anywhere because it's less risk for you, there'll be less crashes, and we can save a lot of money and a lot of deaths across the world. And so what they're doing is testing out autonomous working. Are you going to be happy with that? How are you as a driver, okay, passengers, the public? And so they have litigation, of course, around that, about things going wrong, having accidents, and we're learning from that whole industry. And I think it'll help us in the future, being autonomous as doctors, to learn from that car industry, because they've made the mistakes already, and learn who's liable, how do you create a legal framework around it, how do you create data security. So I think all those industries work together and coalesce to help healthcare. So there's much wider learning in this.
So, Dr. Shafi, I would like to know some of the challenges of your work. And reason is because you are the leading surgeon in the world, and your work challenges are the work challenges of the whole world, of the whole ecosystem of surgeons, right? So, would love to know what are the challenges when you are trying to blend the technology with the surgeries. So, this is a very fascinating topic to talk.
Yeah, so I'm not sure I'm the leading surgeon in the world, but thank you very much for kind of saying so. But I think there are many challenges. So someone like me who's essentially a futurist, an innovator, I guess, who's trying to do things differently and challenge past ideas. And I always say I challenge dogma and tradition, which has been inherent in healthcare for a long time. So I'm very much a small proportion of that workforce. And so the idea really is, how do you educate the workforce, the healthcare workers, with this new language of technology, this new environment we're living in? How do you educate them? How do you bring them to the table? Because it's scary, right? A lot of people are scared about technology, scared about innovation, they don't want to change. So the fundamental hard part is overcoming people's fears and having the educational background to understand this better and take part and become the stakeholders in that journey with you. So it's important to take everyone on that journey with you. That's the first thing. And the other thing, of course, is that we have been historically quite risk averse as a profession, understandably so, because patients' outcome that matter. But what I'm seeing now with this COVID pandemic is that we're now being less risk averse. We're challenging things. Who would have thought today that most consultations, all consultations around the world, are done by telemedicine within 3 months.
Right.
So we can change. We built hospitals I was involved in the Nightingale Hospital, a field hospital in London at the XL Centre. It was built in 3.5 weeks. In China they built it in 10 days. So when the desire is there, suddenly people will face the challenge and adopt. The other problem is the barriers of adoption. At the moment, it's accelerated. And we have a new normal going forward, but after the pandemic we'll go back to normal again and be slow, cumbersome, have a distinct paralysis with the private and public systems. For example, are we going to get private companies to come in more easy? Is it easier? What is there more bureaucracy? What's the process like of fast-paced innovation? Because I like innovation to be fast. It has to be fast because things are changing so rapidly. We have to redesign clinical trials. We have to redesign the way we implement change. We have to think about risk in different ways, for example. All the things are paramount of innovating at pace and hard. So these are the challenges that I face when I'm doing things. And as long as you're sensible, as long as you're doing it for patient benefit, and there's a degree of sensibility about it, you can mitigate risk as far as possible and implement. So I think there are many challenges going forward. I think that we're in a better place than we were 5 years ago, certainly. In the last 3 months, I've seen a distinct change in people's perception and understanding. They would understand digital technologies. And all we need to do is educate them, both at undergraduate level and postgraduate. Continue the learning lifelong, say this is the new normal. It's going to be digital, it's going to be technology enhanced. It's not a solution, but it's an enabler. It supports the mental health practice to be better. So those conversations we need to be having with not just the government, but also the healthcare workers.
Okay, so Dr. Shafi, this pandemic has changed the world for forever. It's saying. So how do we see what will be the life after Corona? Now world is looking forward to the path, the world after the pandemic. So what are the major changes in the healthcare system, what we are going to experience?
So you're absolutely right. I mentioned earlier that COVID-19 has reset the needle. It's
Right.
changed the way we're working.
Right.
If you look at online education and this podcast, it's changed. We're doing more web conferences, we're meeting people on Zoom and other platforms. So it's changed the way we behave. And that relationship with our patients and doctors is changed irreparably. We'll never go back to normal ever again because we're now remote and more virtual. That's the first thing. Also, as I said, for the pace of change will change. We're now seeing fast innovation into clinical practice, changing of the rules, relaxing of regulations, and then we can relax them when we need to. It becomes a global problem, a national problem. So I think there'll be a reset of meetings, I mentioned earlier. We'll be a different place going forward. Obviously, with the pandemic, what we'll be seeing in the next year is recurrent lockdowns as the R value goes up or the increased numbers goes up. We'll see intermittent lockdown to ensure that we're safe and reduce death as far as possible. But the society's moved on. Society's never going to go back to what it was like before, which is a good thing, and we should. We're in a much better place now. So one of the good things about COVID, it's hard to say good things about COVID, is that society has moved on. It's accelerated. We're thinking differently now how to manage global problems, etc. And so I'm hoping that this challenge we've faced is going to preempt success that we've been talking about in the last 5 to 10 years, say, this is our vision. And I'm seeing the vision become realised. I was talking about a friend the other day, had a talk on wired health with a colleague, talking about this whole concept. And he was saying, actually, Shafi, now that you've predicted the future, it's come true, what's next for you? Okay?
What's next?
And what's next, actually, isn't about predicting it, it's about translating. What we've thought about coming has come, that's fantastic, we predicted it, but now it's about translating. How do you make it work and stick into society and clinical practice, That's our job as futurists now and innovators,
Absolutely. So, Dr. Shafi, as you already said, what happened is never going to cure again. The corona effect is going to stay there for a very, very long time. People are going to be more aware of it. We have to take more safety, more precautions. So, what is your message to people? Would love to know.
So look, I'm trying to be very optimistic, very positive about this future, okay? As I said, coronavirus is a global pandemic requiring global solutions using global data, So we're now a world that's connected with all the technologies, So the question is, how do we learn from one another? How do we learn from this pandemic to work in society better, to improve the lives of more people, and to reduce the inequalities of healthcare, And that could be using immersive technology as one part of that, right? We're seeing the challenges being faced. We're seeing solutions being put forward at pace. We're seeing change in regulations and rules. We're seeing faster innovation, faster implementation. I think we're seeing a change of mindset in people across the world about what's necessary, which is so important, vital. We're now going from linear thinkers to those exponential thinkers across everything. Everyone's thinking differently about change. I think the public, the patients, etc., have been far more receptive to ideas and change than we ever thought was possible. We've always been paternalistic about healthcare. We know best as doctors, this is what should be done, we know best. But actually, the patients are saying to us, no, we want change, we want different ways of working. We expect medicine, we expect different kind of healthcare support. So I think we're seeing a natural evolution. And I'm positive about the future. I think healthcare will become better. I think it will become affordable, more accessible, and also more equitable. It's always been my ambition with all these technologies and show that the world can work together. And I'm hoping that's the case going forward as we accept the new shape of it. And we call it Brave New World. It really is a brave new world that we live in. So it could be better words to end on, of course.
Wow. Thanks for this such optimistic message, and you gave us some good insights of the pandemic, but still, it's amazing to have you on the show. And we had some great conversation, and it's time to greet you on your next journey, and whatever you are doing, it's amazing for the society, for the world, and we wish you best of luck for that. Because the world is going to change, the healthcare is going to change, and you are one who is easing this change, who is helping us to change in a better way. So thanks for doing all this for us.
Thank you so much, Avi. Such a pleasure. And thank you for the work that you do, for promoting extended reality across India, promoting what we're doing. You're the kind of people that we need to push our stories out, etc., and to bring it to a larger portion of the population. So thank you for what you've done, Avi, in the last few years. I follow you with interest.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming on the show. So this was Dr. Shafi Ahmed. Dr. Shafi Ahmed is a renowned surgeon, a teacher, futurist, innovator, and he's a multi-award winning surgeon. Not just that, he is world's most watched surgeon. So we had a great time with him and we discussed so many things. Thanks for supporting our show. Thanks for joining us every week, and we are talking about the technology, we are talking about XR, and Dr. Shafi Ahmed is leading the world of XR in healthcare. So we are really happy to have him on the show. Thanks for watching XR Podcast. See you next week.